Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. I'm out here in the garage today and I'm actually putting the calipers together for my cars. So I figured what I'd do while I was out here is, I know a lot of guys like to get stuff powder coated and not many powder coaters actually take stuff apart and put it back together. So what I figure I'd try and do here is show you guys how to actually put a caliper together. So the tools that I'm using to do this job, I'm using a pick. So I use a pick to pull the seal, and I also use this pick to put the boot back in. Now to get the seal, you can stab it with the sharp end, kind of rip it out, because you're going to replace it, you're not reusing it. And then with the boot, I use the soft edge. I don't use the pointy edge, so I just use this round edge, or this rounded side here, to try and walk the boot in, and you'll see that here when I do that. And then because for some reason my bleeders are two different sizes, one was a 10, one was an 11, I got a 10 millimeter deep and an 11 millimeter deep. So that's what I'm going to use to put the bleeder, to take the bleeders out, put the other one, and then put them back in when we're done. And then I'm also using an air tool. Now you don't want to just use something that just gives full blast right away, because you don't want to damage the piston when you remove it. Something like this that you can kind of regulate. So something like this that you can slowly twist and give it a little bit of air pressure and watch that piston walk out is the best move that you got. If you're doing this with a seized caliper, it might come out really hard. I guess I don't know why your stuff is seized, whether you got rust in the cylinder or whether you got water in your brake fluid and rust deposited in the caliper itself. I couldn't tell you that. You could try and get it out or use like a screwdriver on the back. I think they do sell pistons online on Rock Auto. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that, but that's going to be that. Now if you're doing the front calipers on a Neon, then you're going to use a seal kit from Carlson, and that part number is going to be 15072. You're going to need one kit or one package per caliper. And then I also have rears here. Now the rears are done a little bit differently than the front, just because of the way the seal and boot and everything is set up on those. So with the rear, I'll give you a quick rundown. And it's going to do everything very similar to what we're doing here. But with the rear, it actually has a hard seal that gets pressed in. So you put the square cut seal in the caliper, which is separate, and you'll see that when you do the rest. And then you're going to knock this boot in, and then you're going to fight with the boot to get around the piston, to get the piston in. So that's one thing that's different with the rear than the front. So the kit from the rear I got from Advance Auto, and I got it a while ago, but it looks like the part number is a 41200. I can't remember what brand it was, if it was Wherever or if that was also Carlson. I'm sure the part number interchanges. So whatever you order, I mean, if you order a seal kit and it's 14200 and you got a square cut seal and a seal that looks like this, then you'll be ready to rock. So you'll take care of the rears, and they're done in a similar manner as the fronts here, like I said. So it's nothing too wild. Let's get going here. Now, I'm hoping at this point that the part is already powder coated and you have it back. If you don't and you're just taking this apart, I can kind of brief you on what you're going to end up doing with it. So if you take the caliper out and say the caliper is complete, pistons in it, seals and everything, you got the bleeder in it still, you did not take the bleeder out, what you can do is you can take a pressurized air tool, which I have right here. Now, normally I'd have a blowgun, but it broke on me, so I just took this air tool, and then I got this rubber boot on here so I can get a good seal on this. And I just crack it open, give it a little bit of air pressure. You don't want to feed it a whole bunch. You know, with the trigger ones, you could definitely just blow the piston out and cause some damage. So the piston's going to sit inside of it like this. So I got this one out because it's already apart, but like I said, just put air pressure here, and if you want to protect that piston, you could put like a 1x piece of wood, like a 1x4 or something like that, or 1x2 or 1x4, and just kind of set it in here. And when you give it air pressure, that piston will come out and hit that piece of wood, and you're less likely to chip the perimeter of this. Chip the perimeter or damage the piston. That way you don't have a sealing problem. So once you get the piston out of it, there's a square cut seal. Now this seal, if I can find my flashlight here, give me a second. Actually, I'll just use my phone. So that ring is going to sit inside of the wider recession here inside of this piston bore. So you use like a pick or something, or a screwdriver, or whatever you got to do to not damage the caliper, but get the seal out, get it out. I mean, you could probably use a knife or a razor blade and kind of stick it in the, kind of just stab it a little bit and pick it up enough to get a screwdriver or a pen or something under there if you're, you know, if you're that hard up with tools to try and get something like this out. But so you got it apart, you get it to your powder coater, and then you get it back, and now it's time to put everything together. Okay, assuming you're ready to put this together, you want to make sure that the seal goes inside of the second groove here inside of the bore. I lube my seal up with brake fluid just to help it go a little bit easier. And then start with one side, get it started, walk it around, and at one point you're going to have a little bit extra. I'll show you that here in a second, or it's going to look like you have a little bit extra because the seal is actually bigger than the hole you're putting it through until it gets into that groove, and then it's perfect. And you can see right here how it's kind of sticking out. So what you do is you just kind of walk it back a little bit and make sure that it sits flat. That way when it drops in, that square cut seal is going to be perfect. And you can walk around, you can move your finger around, make sure that you're fully seated, that it's not crooked or you got a high spot, because if you got a high spot, you're going to damage it when you put the piston in. Now you just wasted your whole job, because now when you bleed it, brake fluid's going to get on your powder and damage it. And then at that point, you're pretty much ready to try and put the piston in. So what you want to do now is you put this seal on the piston before you put it in. And what you want to do with this is you want to put a little bit of brake fluid on the piston. So same thing, finger in the hole, get some fluid on the tip of your finger, rub it on. Make sure you get a good soak, or get her good and wet. That way it slips in easier. And then I put this seal on first because it's a real pain in the ass to try and get the piston to go inside of this once you put it together. Now this piston is a little bit damaged, but it's only nicked there. The sealing surface is here, so this isn't so the damage this piston does have isn't gonna hurt what we're doing. So you get the seal over top of the piston first. Just kind of walk around till you get it there. Okay, so now that the seal is on the piston, you can walk it down, and what that's going to do is unroll it so you can actually work with it. Now it's a little slippery when you're doing this brake fluid. You don't want to tear it, but you got to pull it past that point all the way around. So do a little bit at a time, and then once it's done, you just walk it down. You don't want to stretch it, so kind of be easy when you do this part. And you get it close to the edge. And you want a little bit of hang, because this is what you're going to work with to get this square part of the seal to sit in the outermost point of the piston right here. The other square cut spot that this seal didn't ride in is where this boot sits. So now's the fun part. And this one's not easy to do the way this is sitting here. Now this part's not the easiest to do and be able to show you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and stand this up. So what I'm going to do is see if I got a flashlight that I can try and pop up and give you guys a good distant shot. That way you can actually see what I'm doing. And what I want to do is start with the back, because you can walk this side out with your tools where it's really difficult to get in here around the piston to seal the back part. So when you put it in, I try and do the back of the boot first, but give me a second, let me see what I can use to prop this guy up, and then we'll start moving forward with this. It actually looks like I might be able to use this throttle out of here. Perfect. So like I said, start with the back, kind of set it in as much as you can, and then start working it around. Now what I'm going to use to do this is I'm just going to use a small pick, but you got to use the soft edge. You don't want to poke a hole in it. So just kind of use your pick tool, walk it in, get the boot to sit. No, it didn't seal, so that wasn't in all the way, but it looks like it's in all the way around this side. So yeah, look, it's just this spot that I got to fight with right here. Which hopefully won't be too much of a bitch. Okay, so now that before you push the piston in, you want to make sure that you're seated. Because if you're not seated, you're gonna just waste a whole bunch of time, and then you got to retake this apart, and hopefully you don't damage anything in that process. So I got my boot fully seated. So now what you got to do is you square the piston up, and you want to get it as square as absolutely possible to the seal. So pretty much like this. I mean, you want it square this way, every which way. That way it goes in perfect, and then you should be able to just walk it in. Should be able to anyway. It must be off here a little bit. There we go. Nope, being a pain. Okay, so now because I know I'm past the seal, I'm not worried about damaging it, and I also have these that I can use to do this. So if you guys have a piston depressor tool, you could use that. This will also help square it up. And you just kind of walk it in. It shouldn't ever go super hard. If it does, you're doing something wrong. This guy's bottomed out. So now I need to find something flat, like an old pad, which I don't have. So now that this guy's bottomed out, I'm going to try and offset the tool here. There we go. Now if you had a C-clamp or a vise, you could achieve the same thing. Just try and wrap this up so you don't damage your parts. And then also make sure that this piston is past the seal before you press it that far, because you don't want to damage that seal when you force it in there. You don't want to damage that seal forcing it in there, so you definitely want to make sure that your piston's squared up to that seal before you get after it with a tool like that. So like I said, what I did was I kind of set it in, I got it to where it was just touching the seal all the way around, used my hand, rocked in a little bit, I had it in probably a quarter, half an inch, and then I ended up using my tool to finish the job off because I knew I was past that point. So no risk of damaging the seal, calipers together. So now all you gotta do is put the bleeder in. Just make sure your threads are clean. So yeah guys, bleeder's in, cap is on, we are ready to rock. So now I can put it in the car, hook my line up, try and bleed it out. Hopefully you get no leaks, and then you're ready to go. So that's it. Appreciate you checking out the video. I hope this video helps you put your calipers together once you get them back from powder, if your guy doesn't do them for you. Like I said, the rear is done in a similar manner, just a little bit different because you got to knock that seal in there before you put the piston in. That's the only difference. Where with this one, you put the seal in the piston all the way on the bottom, set the seal in, and then slide the piston in. Like I said, the other one, you put the seal in, hammer it all, or you get it fully seated, and then you put the piston inside of that. Definitely not fun, but it is manageable. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Definitely thanks for checking us out today. Like I said, hopefully this video helped you guys out. You have yourself a good one. Stay safe, and we will see you at the track. Thanks.